This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hey everyone, Mary Lou Kaiser here. Welcome to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast. In today's episode, I am going inside the PYP locker room to retrieve some of the X's and O's from old trainings that I've got under key down in the vault that is below the surface of the PYP locker room, so to speak. And today's training is about how to have uncomfortable conversations with clients and or customers, which, if you're in business or you work for a company, is going to be something you're going to face from time to time. Now, if you happen to be in education, sometimes you have to have uncomfortable conversations with students or colleagues or the principal or parents. I certainly had a few of those in my day. And so this training is from a couple of years ago. And it's relevant because as we go deeper into the work we're doing, building our leadership practices, working remotely, perhaps as things begin to open up again, meeting people face to face, there are going to be times when something isn't communicated properly. There was a misunderstanding in hindsight. And so how do we graciously and in a customer service forward way work with that individual so that everybody walks away from the experience feeling good about it, as much as you can feel good about something that it doesn't matter how skilled you are, it is uncomfortable sometimes to have those difficult conversations. So with that said, the audio should be fine. It is not audio that I created through my really awesome microphone. It's actually from a video that I shot. And so there'll be places where you're going to hear me writing on the whiteboard. It's not that big a deal. I just wanted to let you know. And once the training is over, it will end and the show will end. And I'm excited because I've been going into this vault that I have of previous trainings that I've done over the years. And I'm going to start pulling some of these out from time to time. And I'm calling the series Locker Room X's and O's. So you can be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, you know what to do, team. Have a listen. Make it a great day. Get out there and play your position. And if you happen to have a difficult or uncomfortable conversation with a customer or client in the near future, perhaps what I share today will be of value to you. So without further ado, here is the training. I want to share with you some thoughts and strategies around having difficult and uncomfortable conversations with your customers and clients. It's one of the darker sides to running your own business, and we don't see a lot about it in the online space, especially in social media. And that's because social media tends to be about uplifting other people and sharing the great things that are happening in our lives. And that's awesome. And I participate in that program all the time. In fact, if you check out my channels, I'm almost always posting some kind of inspirational comment or quote or insight because that's what I love to share and I think it has value. However, as business owners, we are going to have to face from time to time an uncomfortable and difficult conversation with a customer or client. I recently had this experience, which is what inspired me to make this video. And I realized that this is a pretty common experience for small business owners. So I just wanted to toss out a couple of things for you to think about the next time you are faced with a situation that just kind of leaves you feeling raw or even furious. I mean, the emotional spectrum is as wide as, my arm stretching out here. And we have to remember that as business owners, there are going to be good days and bad days. just like for our clients. So let me give you a little bit of context, and then I'm going to throw out a couple of strategies, and then we'll just wrap up because I don't want to make this super, super long. My situation was this. I got an email from my client saying, "Do you have time for a conference call today?" That's all the email said. And immediately the hackles on the back of my neck went up, and I knew something was up and that she was not happy. So of course I responded professionally and said, "Absolutely. What time frame were you thinking? I've got some time this afternoon." So we made the appointment and set the call. Well, when the call came, of course, there were the typical pleasantries followed by the difficult conversation, which I led into by saying, "So you wanted to have this conference call. What's up?" And that's when she told me she was unhappy with the state of the project that I've been helping her with. And I thought to myself, okay, let's just ride with this. Let's find out, what is she unhappy about? And so she told me. And I have to be honest and let you know that what she said to me stung a little, because I thought, wow, this is why she hired me. This was one of the reasons that she's paid me so generously, is to be tough on her, is to call her out on a few things that need to be pointed out, so that this project that she's working on and is going to become a big part of her business and brand moving forward, I want to make sure that that is the very best reflection of her. Now, let's think about this for a minute. Think about the last time someone you worked with, could be your coach, could be a colleague, it could be a competitor in the space who you joint venture with. Think about the last time somebody called you out on something and pointed out to you that you needed to fix something, or that what you created wasn't as good as perhaps you thought it was. And how'd that make you feel? Yeah, nobody likes that, right? I don't. But as mature adults, as business owners, it's par for the course. And so we need to be ready to hear not just the glowing recommendations that we get from our customers and clients who love working with us, who love the results that we get for them. We also need to be prepared that from time to time, our customers aren't going to be happy with our performance. Maybe we've missed a deadline. Maybe we didn't follow through on something that we promised. Maybe we forgot something. And that was that last thing I just said. I forgot something that she and I had talked about, and it was on me. I didn't write it down. And if I don't write things down, I forget. I know that about myself. So of course, I started kicking myself about this oversight of mine and how I had included something she was vehemently opposed to having in her project. So again, I owned up to it. I apologized. I told her that she's my customer. She gets the final say. I'm willing to work with her to reverse engineer the things that I did to get it to a point where she is happy. And we left it at that. However, the rest of the phone call, when it returned to being personal and we started talking about our families, our kids, what's going on in our lives, was really awkward. I found myself gritting my teeth and clenching my fists and wanting the conversation to be over, but didn't know how to gracefully exit. So we talked for another 15 minutes or so, and the joy and the laughter that is typically between us just wasn't there. So as you can imagine, I spent quite a bit of time reflecting on the experience and thinking through, what part of this problem do I need to own? What part of this problem is on her? And how can we move forward so that A, the problem gets solved, and B, our relationship isn't tarnished or ruined, which is not my intention at all. She's a dear friend, love her to death, and want to continue the friendship that we have, and also the business relationship, because it's been a very fruitful one, and this is just a hiccup along the way. With that said, now that you have the backstory, and you may be thinking to yourself, yeah, I've been there, or wow, I had never really thought about this. Some of us like to just bury those experiences in the sand and not even bring them up. But I think we do ourselves a disservice, quite frankly, if we don't address the dark side of business ownership and conversations that make us uncomfortable, that are difficult with our clients and customers is one of those big categories that we need to get better at. So here are a couple of strategies I just want to throw out to you for your consideration. Whether you decide to use them or not is ultimately up to you, but I have found that these can work wonders to make that bridge into the next phase more comfortable and more productive. So the first one I want to share with you is, number one, take a timeout. Take a timeout. Do not react. Do not respond immediately after hanging up the phone or driving away from the meeting. Don't do what George Costanza does in that awesome episode of Seinfeld where he's been in a meeting and the other participants in the meeting start picking on him and he can't think of a comeback and he just meditates and ruminates on it the entire flight back to New York, and he lands and then he comes up with his comeback, and the end of the show shows him driving his car back towards JFK to get back on a plane and go back to the meeting and see those people again and one-up them with his comeback. As Seinfeld fans, those of you who know the show know, that ends up backfiring, and it backfires in our situations as well. The last thing you want to do is just shoot off an email or call the client back or do anything at all when your emotions are high. Take a time out, think about what just happened, really process it, write it down, maybe in a journal or a notebook, or write a letter to yourself and send it in an email. But don't send anything to your client immediately. Take at least an hour, if not more, to really think through what has happened. I say 24 hours. That's a really good rule of thumb. Take 24 hours to reflect on what just happened. And then you can circle back and revisit, what the situation is and make it whatever you need to make it. Okay, second strategy is, remember, it's a two-way street, and that means you need to own your part of the problem. We do. We need to examine, analyze, reflect on what did we do? What were the sequence of events that led up to this particular situation? And once we get the insight from the reflection about what we did, how we participated, that's how we can now move forward. So next time when a similar situation arises, because if you're like most small business owners, you're going to do the same kinds of projects, offer the same kinds of services to new clients and customers in the future. So by understanding what happened in this particular situation, say you work on projects that last 6 months, and at month 5, you know that a certain thing is going to start happening because you've done it before and you started to recognize patterns. Now you know, okay, I'm going to not do what I did with the last customer or client and see what happens. This is all part of developing our processes, our procedures, and our systems. And you know what? There's no guarantee that you're going to avoid any kind of uncomfortable or difficult conversations in the future, because at the end of the day, small business ownership and life in general boils down to communication skills, and we all can get better. So those are my 2 strategies for you to take away today. First of all, take a time out after a difficult conversation, reflect, own your part of the problem, and see about working through it in a mature and non-emotional state of mind the next time you and your client or customer either meet face-to-face or hop on the phone together. It is okay to communicate with them via email or text only after you've taken some time to think through. And last but not least, always be bigger than the problem. So if that means apologizing, if that means taking full ownership of what happened, do it. Do it. It's going to serve you in the end.
Got a great key offensive strategy you like to share? Write to us at coach@pyppodcast.com or on Twitter, use #PYP and let us know how you're running your ball into the end zone for those game-winning touchdowns.